Happy New Year, Mia.
Happy New Year.
Ahoy, shipmates. Welcome to the 13th season of On the Wind. It's January 1st as we record this. New season of the podcast, new year, new season of sailing. Mia, you're about to go to sea. 3 days the crew arrived for the first passage of the year. How do you feel?
Super excited. I haven't been sailing on FALKEN since when we sailed up to Sweden in August. But I have to admit, it always comes with a little bit of nerves. Always. But
Can you
excited.
define what you're nervous about?
No, I think it's just the ensign. We talked about it with your dad and his sister yesterday for New Year, that when you stop getting that feeling, you stop caring. So I think it's just a caring feeling that I'm really excited. When doing something big, it's really exciting. And I'm sure the crew feels it even more.
Well, so today's episode is a kind of our annual recap, you and me, about what happened in 2024, what's happening in 2025, what we're excited about, all the rest of that. And I think one of the things that comes up in this episode is our 2027 calendar. We got to decide if we're going to bring Falcon back to the Atlantic or not. That calendar is going to publish in April. But I think we do still have some spaces on both boats for 2025 if you still want to sail with us this year.
Yeah, we have a few on Falken, but on Eastbjörn we have quite a few, especially for women. And on Eastbjörn, since we're doing minimum 2 women's spaces on every trip we do, there's actually almost a 50-50 mix. It means it's a minimum 2 women.
And from a total of 5 crew.
For a total of 5 crew, exactly. And we now have Jojo as our skipper on some of the trips. We're also having a female skipper on Eastbjörn. But at the moment, we have open 1 space on the Faroe Island to Lofoten, which is a great offshore passage with 2 fantastic destinations. And then a couple cruising coastal kind of combination coastal offshore legs on Eastbjörn in the middle of the season in the summer. And in the fall, we added a few trips. One is Bergen out to Oban, Scotland, and back to Bergen again. And I think we have a few spaces on those. And most spaces open are for women. But if you're a guy, don't be afraid of checking it out, because once in a while we have a crew kind of swapping legs. So if you want to sail with us, send me an email and I add you to waiting list, because if we do have any cancellations or last minute opportunities, you will be the first one to know. So it's always good to be on that list.
Yeah. And we talk about this. You go into a little more detail in this episode about why we do that women's thing and how fun it is that we're doing it and how cool it is. So we'll let that come later.
Yeah.
What about on Falcon?
On Falcon at the moment, we have 1 or 2 trips on the leg from Marquesas to Tahiti. We had
Ooh, that's with me.
I know, we had a cancellation on that. So if you want to snag that one.
That's surprising that got canceled. That's that via the Tuamotus. That might be the most exciting leg of the year.
It is rare that we get cancellations, but sometimes lives come in between. Sometimes there's a family emergency happening. Things are happening, but at occasion we do have cancellations. And then I think we have 1 or 2 spaces in the fall. But we do have some trips in 26 as well open. So if you want to see what's open, check out 59-north.com/bunks with an S on the end.
And that shows you everything that's currently open that we have published.
Yeah.
How about the racing? Does Nikki have any racing slots available?
Yep, there's 2 spaces for women she wanted to do a 50-50 mix on the races. So that's the aim. So there's 2 spaces open in the middle sea race.
That's in October.
Yep.
Cool.
I know that's a lot of things to remember, so it's best
Hence,
to just go into the website.
And the racing ones are on the bunks as well.
Correct.
Yeah, awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
And I'm doing a couple trips on Spica. We talk about this episode. There might be a FAR 40 in the mix in Sweden next summer. There's a lot of decisions we got to make. But anyway, whatever happens with that stuff, you'll see it on the website. So check that out.
And also, don't be afraid of being on our mailing list, because you will be the first one to know when there's opportunities coming. So get on the website and jump on our mailing list. That way you can see that when things are coming up.
That's a good point, because when we launch the 2027 calendar, especially if we come back to the Atlantic, there's going to be a couple Atlantic crossings in there. Those literally sell overnight, and the people that know about them first are the ones that are on the mailing list.
And the quarterdeck.
I was going to say first is the quarterdeck, but there's fewer people on there.
Yeah.
But cool. All right, Mia, have a fun trip. I'm jealous that you get to go sailing before me.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Until next time.
Hold fast.
On the Wind is presented once again by our friends Forbes and Jamie Horton at Forbes Yachts in Annapolis. In case you missed it, we're doing something a little different for this year. Each month, we send out our Skipper's Briefing newsletter, which now includes a boat shopping section, whereby we post listings of our favorite boats that we've found on the market. Each month, we'll choose one that we love from the wider market and the coolest boat that's listed by our friends at Forbes Yachts. Boat shopping is probably our favorite hobby at 59 North and a major distraction to our workdays. In fact, I'm going to look at another boat on Sunday. So you can check out the listings we love by subscribing to our newsletter. And don't forget, Forbes can represent you as a buyer's broker for any boat that you like, not just his listings. Get in touch at ForbesYachts.com to buy or sell your dream boat. That's FORBES, ForbesYachts.com. This episode is also presented by our friend Dr. Connor Smith, aka the Boat Doctor, powering life on the water. Boat Doctor designs high-powered off-grid energy systems for boaters, RVers, and other off-grid utilizations. They offer energy system consultation for clients, complete energy system designs, and turnkey installation services. Connor is a lifer growing up on sailboats and now holding a U.S. Coast Guard captain's license to boot. He's even been a guest on this podcast on episode number 312. If you followed the electrical system designs of Falcon and Eastbjorn, you'll know how valuable that we feel a modern energy system is for cruising. Connor can help make that a reality for you. Get in touch with Connor at Boat Doctor for all of your onboard electricity needs at boatdoctorusa.com. That's BOATDRUSA.com. You're listening to On the Wind, my podcast about offshore sailing. I'm your host, Andy Schell. Okay, Mia, another year. Our 10th season. We finished our 10th season in 2024.
That is amazing.
We've done, August sent the newsletter out for the skipper's briefing, and he had some stats in there about the passages, and it's pretty. Now I'm going to have some dead air here because I wasn't prepared for this. Here we go. Some stats about 2024. He said, combined, the 59 North boats, Eastbjorn and Falcon, sailed 18,136 miles, covered 58 degrees of latitude. 174 crew sailed with us last year, including the offshore racing program, which actually isn't counted in those miles. So it's actually over 20,000 miles if you count the two races we did. And it's by far our biggest year ever in our 10th season doing this. What did you like? And here we are in Lagos. We started coming here in 2012 when we were doing a delivery before 59 North even started. Mm-hmm. Like, did you think we'd get to this point? Like, even after we started 59 North, did you ever imagine, like, what did you imagine the future to look like?
I mean, I don't really look into the future as much as you do. I'm not that kind of a thinker. I'm not surprised, but I also couldn't really imagine it. So no, it's hard for me to like say that I would look into the future and see this, but I think it's absolutely amazing. I mean, sitting here in Falken again, we were here last year for the same time and starting another season, and this is going to be talking about the last year was a big year. The future, the next year is going to be even bigger.
I know. I know. That's kind of the scary thing. I think we said we did 18,000 miles between Eastbjorn and Falcon, but I think Falcon alone, let me look this up. Falcon alone next year is scheduled to sail. Here we go. I have it here. Miles. Where's the miles?
And for those of you guys who are new to the podcast, we have always been in the Atlantic with both Eastbjorn and Falcon and Ice Bear. We've been up to Svalbard in the Caribbean, but this 25 season is going to be the first season we go through the Panama Canal and into the Pacific.
And we've been talking about this since like 2019 at the boat show. We even made up postcards. We were going to take Eastbjorn to the Pacific and do like the Sydney Hobart race and all the way to Australia and all that. That was like over 5 years ago. We haven't done it yet. And
I'm glad we waited. I feel like now we're actually ready and prepared with a team.
But so next year alone, Falcon's scheduled to sail 18,300 miles in 1 year, one boat.
That's just the rum line.
I know. So it'll be more than that. So like, yeah, we said we did a big year in 24, but this is going to be by far the most, and probably the most ambitious year that we've had, because we're farthest from home. The travel distances for all of us staff and the amount of miles we're sailing is a lot. So what are this? You and I have not done this every year, but we've often sat down and done like it's actually New Year's Day as we record this, January 1st. We've often done like a reflective look back podcast, you and me, and then kind of looked ahead as well. So what, as you get ready to start the first trip of the year, what are the things that stand out when you look back on 2024?
I think it was really cool to have Falken. Like I took Falken from here Lagos to Las Palmas, and then you took over and went across Atlantic on her. And I think that one of the cool things was that we actually also took her home to Sweden and had her in Sweden on the home ground, and a lot of our friends and family could come down and visit. That was really neat to bring her closer to us and show the like our own community. Like you got to have your friends come down and visit and stuff. I think that was really neat.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that until you just said that. You and I, well, adding to that, you and I did our first passage together on Falken ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was also really
from
nice.
Amsterdam up to Sweden. First time since Axel was born that we did a trip together.
Yeah, no,
so
that was really
pretty
nice.
Good. But yeah, I forgot about the Sweden thing. I mean, we didn't bring the boat all the way into Stockholm where we live. But I think we decided a long time ago that that's like a long way in, and it's better just to keep a boat, especially a boat this big on the West Coast.
Yeah, the sailing into the Baltic with this boat, and to experience the archipelago and the beauty of the Baltic, I think you have to have, in my mind, a smaller boat if you're gonna experience the anchoring on the rocks, taking Falken into one of those of thinking about the names, one of the small islands, and just tying up to the rocks and going to the sauna. It just doesn't feel right.
It does. No, I agree.
And, you're not going to find a spot with her depth and her size.
Even on when we did the trip on Falken, we got to where did we go first? Was it? No, not Mollösund. It was where did we? Smögen, yeah. And then we day sailed down to Marstrand, and we anchored in that anchorage outside Mollösund, and like the boat felt gigantic because we'd been in there before on Isbjörn, but the boat felt huge in there, and we were just anchored in the middle.
I mean, even sitting on Smögenbryggan, we couldn't fit the long way; we had to fit sideways.
That's right. It took up like 10 spaces. You're supposed to be like bowed to the dock. We took up like 10 spaces.
We were only there for one night, so we didn't kick anyone out.
That was funny though too, because like everybody, after passage, everybody wants to have a beer and have some food or something. We literally parked right in front of the one restaurant bar that was open at 11 o'clock at night when we got there.
Yeah,
I was like, I said to the crew, like, okay guys, I can't get you any closer. Like, here we are. What do you think about let's just recap. What trips did you sail last year?
So I started the season here in Lagos and sailed down to Las Palmas. In reality, I would have liked to have done like a back-to-back trip because it was a very short trip. But then with the family situation, you wanted to do the transatlantic. So it would have been, you and me would have had to do a handover in Cape Verde, and we decided that was not a good idea. So I only did the first trip of the year. And then I then you and me went up to Bergen together, and I sailed down to Amsterdam with the all-women's crew.
That's right. We went to Bergen. That's right. We had the two boats met for the first time in 2024.
Let's keep this in segments because you're very good at rambling.
I know.
So I did went from Bergen to Amsterdam on an all-women's trip. That was really cool. And then
that was the puke. What was it? The meditation corner.
Yeah, the bucket trip. Only for one night. And then a couple days in Amsterdam, and you came down and joined me. And we had a few days to explore Amsterdam, and then have crew come in and sail up to Sweden.
So you only did three short trips last year.
Yeah, that's why I'm excited to do a long stint now.
Well, I was going to ask you, like, how do you feel? Like, do you think that was enough sailing for you in 2024? I mean, our like roles have evolved. Especially now that we don't sail together, but like that doesn't seem like enough.
No, it wasn't.
To satisfy you. I don't mean for any other reason.
No, I like a longer trip, and I think it works good now that you and me thought about that. Like one of us do a winter stint, then we're home for a month and a half together. Then the next person goes out and do the spring, and then we may do some fall trips. But that both of us get like a long stint over the winter and the spring, and then we can keep the summer in Sweden. So I think that will feel like we're finally starting to figure out like the pattern, what's gonna work.
Yeah, I was just thinking like, okay, if 2024 had any themes, I feel like we got a lot more organized in 2024. It felt like, the 2 years, 2022 was spent building Falken. 2023 was Falken's first season spent like kind of chasing the gremlins and kind of getting caught up. And I feel like 2024 was the first year since we had Falken and Isbjörn and a bigger team that we were actually able to get ahead of some of these things, like to get a little bit organized instead of just like putting out fires all the time. Not that it was super stressful, but just like being more proactive instead of reactive, like you like to say. Yeah.
And what was your trip? What's your trips then in 24?
So I joined in Cape Verde and did the transatlantic. It was my 8th. You're about to do your 8th coming up. So Cape Verde to Barbados. And then I did one trip in the Caribbean. So Barbados to Antigua. just kind of an island hopping trip. Those are really fun. You realize like I hadn't been to the Caribbean in a while, and like we have spent a lot of time in those different islands down there, and it's like really feels like home. And it's like I really did miss it having been there now. And then I did a trip with my friends. They came down and we circumnavigated Guadeloupe. That was really fun. And then what else did I sail? Amsterdam to Sweden with you. And was that it?
Yeah.
So I didn't do that. I only did 3 trips last year too.
Yeah, I think this was the year when you and me sailed a little bit too little.
Well,
Maybe not you with the Caribbean.
I did Gotland Runt on Spica, which kind of got cut short. That was a 59 North trip. So yeah, but yeah. Now that I say this out loud, I mean, we did a lot of traveling because we went to Bergen, we came back down here. I want to talk a little bit about that then too. But like, yeah, when you put it that way, I did 1 long trip and 2 just 7-day trips, I guess.
But even the long trip was so fast that you only did it in 10 days.
10 days, 11 hours. We beat you and Nikki went Cape Verde to Barbados before? That was on Ice Bear.
I mean, I'm happy that a FAR 65 beats a Swan 59.
Yeah, that's true. We averaged 201 miles a day. That was easily the easiest long trip I've ever done. 2,000 miles. We did it in less than 10 days, so many hours. Didn't rain a drop. It was super, super simple, super easy. So, all right, on that same topic, are you sailing more next year, and are you excited to sail more next year?
I'm doing longer trips this year. So I'm doing, like I said, I'm going from here to Las Palmas, and instead of stopping in Cape Verde, we're going to do a straight from Las Palmas to Antigua. So I'm really excited about that long trip. And it will be fun to see because...
So that's a 3,000 mile transat.
In 23, I did that on Falken as well. And that was a very light wind. So it will be interesting to see if it's going to be similar winds, if it's going to be faster, what the conditions going to be this time of the year. Because the last time we did it was in the spring. I think it was in April or May.
And then what's the next stint you're doing?
The next one I will be doing is flying up to the Pacific Northwest and doing a women's trip from BC down to San Francisco.
First time in the Pacific. I'm just looking here at the schedule for next year.
Do you want to do a quick recap of the schedule?
Well, yeah. The reason, I said we're doing 18,300 miles. The reason it's that many is we're going to the Pacific, but we got to get there first. Like we're doing, I think almost over 5,000 miles in the Atlantic before we even start in the Pacific. And we have 3 passages of 3,000 miles next year and 1 passage of 2,500 miles. So like, that's just, that's almost 12,000 miles in 4 trips. So that's the reason it's like such big mileage. So yeah, so we start here in Lagos to Las Palmas, like you said, and then Las Palmas to Antigua. We kind of decided like we're going to make a beeline for the Panama Canal just to get the seasons right, to line this up right. Then we go Antigua to Colombia. And this was fun because we said, well, we could just have the canal transit as a trip itself. We said, now let's make a little bit of a sail in there as well. So you get the transit and a sail. So instead of going Antigua to Panama, we're going Antigua to Colombia. And then you get a little 300-mile sail over to Panama, see the San Blas Islands, and then through the Panama Canal. I don't know why I'm like promoting this. It's already sold. But anyway, then we go Antigua, Colombia through the canal, Panama to Galapagos. That's 1,000 miles. That's longer than I thought. Then I joined the boat. So where I came in here, I joined the boat in the Galapagos, the first of many difficult travel situations for me and the rest of the staff next year.
And the crew.
And the crew, yeah. So I go Galapagos to the Marquesas. That's 3,000 miles. Then we go Marquesas to Tahiti via the 2 Motus. That's only 800 miles, but we get to stop off in the 2 Motus to see the classic atolls and stuff, places I've never been to. Really excited about that. And then those are only 2 trips I'm doing in the spring. And then I fly home from Tahiti. Then we have a cruising trip in Tahiti. Then we go Tahiti to Hawaii via the Palmyra Atoll, which is apparently going to be very cool. Shout out to Mary, one of our new skippers who had been there and suggested, like, hey, if you're going Tahiti to Hawaii, like, you got to stop in Palmyra. Then we have Hawaii to the Alaska border, so Prince Rupert, British Columbia, Alaska. Then Alaska to Victoria, BC. Then you said, Mia, your trip, Victoria to San Francisco. Then I go back out to...
and we have a break in San Francisco for like a month or 2.
We have a break in San Francisco, and then I go back out to do San Francisco to Ensenada, Mexico. then Mexico back up to San Diego, and then the boat sits in San Diego over the holidays next year. So I think it's all said and done. It's like how many? 16 legs? No, hang on.
I think it's 14.
14 legs, something like that. Let me look up the leg number here. Save that. You got to talk when I'm looking stuff up, Mia. You can't have dead air here.
Ooh.
Come on.
I'm not good at filling the space.
13. It's 13.
Plus
14. Yeah, because
I know my math.
You're the one that organizes all this. So I'm doing basically 2 stints on the boat as well. My second stint's a little bit longer than yours, only because it's 2 trips back to back. But I think that works well. And then you and I have decided, I think, actually one of the other things we decided in 2024 is like it's stupid for us to be away from Sweden in the summer.
Yeah.
So talk about that because I think that's like one of the things, as we've grown the business, we've also tried to balance our life and our family. And the whole point of having 2 boats was to have a family. And we learned last year that like, we have a family now in Sweden. This is stupid. Why are we traveling in the summer?
Yeah, and for us too, on a personal note, the daycare, the schools are closed in the summertime, so it doesn't make sense for us to be traveling in the summertime. And last year, the summer was very chopped up, and it was fun with all the sailing we did, but I think having more time in Sweden with Axel in the summer is going to be, that's a prime time in Sweden to be there, and also get to spend time with our friends who are out cruising at the time. If we go cruising off season in Sweden, it's not as nice, and also none of the friends are out. So we'll decided for 25 that we're going to spend the summer in Sweden and go cruising while Axel's school is closed.
And we bought a new boat. So it's a perfect segue to that because that was like, so I guess I did Gotland Runt on the old Spica, which was our Norlin 34, and it was pretty heavy weather at the start, and I realized how the boat wasn't prepared for that kind of weather because we never sailed it in that, and then it brought up a lot of issues that we needed to fix, and you and I kind of said at the end of the summer like, well, it's going to cost quite a lot of money to fix this stuff. Do we want to maybe just see what else is out there?
I mean, we were in the situation of Spica she wasn't perfect for us, so we needed to do a lot of modifications to her, and it's either going to cost us time or money. Because if we don't have the time to do it, we're going to have to pay someone to do it, and it was just like for that kind of boat, it's not worth putting that much money into other people's labor.
Yeah.
And like,
well, you're right. It wasn't just fixing stuff. It was some things to fix, but it was like the boat didn't have an autopilot. We wanted to have that. They didn't have a dinghy. We wanted to have that. A few things it didn't have. And also it was, it didn't even have, it had an alcohol stove. It was a more of a camping experience on that boat. And you and I said, well, all right, if we're going to change the way we live here in the summers and actually live aboard cruise for like a month at a time, maybe we should see what else is out there before we plow a bunch of money into fixing what we have.
Yeah, because I think certain boats require people that have time to take care of them, and we did not have time to fix up Spica because, like you said, you coming back in the end of May from your trip, and we want to go cruising in the summertime. We're only gonna have 3 weeks to work on the boat, and so that's why we were deciding. And we got quotes from places where we're gonna fix it up, and we would spend more money than we even bought the boat for, and that felt unnecessary.
Yeah, well, we bought old Spica for $19,000, so it's we didn't spend a lot of money on it to begin with. But I mean, we talked about this. August and I did a whole series of boat shopping podcasts on the quarterdeck. So if you go back and you want to hear the full story about us buying the new boat, you can listen to it there. But the bottom line is, we ended up getting a really, really nicely renovated Ola Enderline 36, which looks like an old classic Swan 36. It's definitely our style of boat, and it's really going to be a really nice live-aboard boat. It's got a dinghy, it's got an autopilot, it's got all the things that we wanted to add to Spica, and it was renovated by someone else. And I did a very, very deep dive on Blocket, the sort of used stuff website, and looked at you and I must have looked at 50 different boat listings.
I think you looked at probably 150. I may have peeked at 20 of them.
Yeah, well, I was your filter. And we're both. I'm really excited about that. We haven't even sailed. We've only sailed the boat for like an hour before we went and committed to buy it. And I'm really looking forward to that next summer. And we decided that when Axel's kindergarten or preschool is closed for that month, we're just gonna live on the boat.
Yeah, and actually be cruising Swedes.
Cruising Swedes with everyone else in July. Yeah, I
know. We've never been cruising in the peak season in Sweden, but no, it will be great. I mean, such a big place, and I'm really looking forward to. We have friends who wrote an article in a magazine one time and called it, because in Sweden you call it long sailing, and usually you refer to the distance, like you go long cruising,
like long distance sailing,
distance cruising to Caribbean and stuff, but they were referring it to long time sailing. It doesn't really matter where you go, but you spend a month or two on board. And I think that's where I'm looking forward to just kind of get in because if you're only on the boat for a week, it requires more packing and thinking than you're actually spending time on it. And now when you go for a month, you can actually get into it, just like a passage. But you stop every night.
It's, yeah, I mean, this raises, I talked about this a little bit on the podcast earlier this year when Emma interviewed me. It's like for the first time, you and me are having to sort of plan and like create our work life and our family life. Like before, everything was just blended together when it was just you and me, and it didn't matter.
And even when Max was a baby, it was easier to bring him along.
Yeah, and now we have to like actually plan for what is our life outside of work going to look like. And I know that sounds really silly to people, but like it's since I started working, my whole thing was to like create a job that was something that didn't feel like work, and now that I have to get pulled away from the thing I love the most, because that's how I set my life up, that's been like I mean we're still figuring it out. That's been a challenge I didn't expect, because all of a sudden it's like, okay, now we have all this time as a family, what are we going to do?
Yeah, no, I mean but it also helps. To me, it helps because I really, really enjoy the long distance sailing, and it allows us to do both. It's in one way people think compromising is a negative term because you cannot do everything you want. But for me, compromising is like actually positive because I can do everything I want, just not at the same time.
Yeah.
And all the time.
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, I get to go across Atlantic in the wintertime. I go home, I work, I go to the gym, I go cruising in the summertime. I mean, it's perfect. We just can't do it all together.
My sister and dad are here with us on this we did a little family vacation here in Lagos before you go sailing. And I was talking to her about like how strange it must be for sort of people that lead more stereotypically normal lives, that you and I are separated a lot of the time for the year. Like over the course of a year, we're gone 6-8 weeks at a time. And she brought up the fact that a lot of her friends were like, isn't it weird? Because her husband, Kevin, did the Appalachian Trail in like 6 months, in a 6-month stretch. And this was like 10, 12 years ago now, but they were still together. And Katie's like, why would it be weird? Like, he's doing what he loves. I fully support that. I think this is great. And I think that's how you and I have been. And I actually think it's been healthy for our family to have the time, because it's like not often nowadays with a family and a kid that you get any time to yourself. So do you, like, how do you find it? Is it difficult for you being away from Axel and me in the house and your home life and stuff, and having two separate lives?
It is difficult because I miss you guys, and I would love, like, yeah, of course it's difficult, but it's also, I'd rather be away for 6 weeks in a stint and then be home. I mean, also a lot of people travel abroad or travel with work
weekly or monthly,
and like I think that would be harder for me to every second week have to pull off 3 days and go to a conference, even if it would just be in Sweden. But like, I think to me, I'd rather do the stints. And yeah, I'm gonna be away from now until like 10th of February, but then I'm gonna be home until basically October when we go to the US. Oh, to August when I go sailing. Yeah. So I really enjoy the longer stints home than the like chopped up 2 days here and there.
Yeah, same. And I think I probably enjoy being away. I think it's much easier for the person being away than the person being at home. I think the time goes faster. What do you think about that? Like, cause it's like you say, when you're home, when I'm home with Axel in our weekly routine, he goes to bed at 7:30. And the house is very quiet and empty.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's
no
pretty long
around
to be home, but I think also it's kind of like we live in phases. And that's just one of the phases of our kind of year round. And I think, I mean, my parents are nearby, so I think I have a little bit more entertainment than you do.
It's harder for me, living in a foreign country with fewer friends and no family. I mean, your family is my family now, but you know what I mean. What else do you? This is fun going down these little side channels here as we think of stuff. But what's your? If you could describe 2024 from a 59 North perspective in like a few words or one sentence, what's the big picture theme that emerges for you when you think about reflecting?
Oh man, you're really putting me on the spot.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do that. Like a great season on we haven't spoken much about Isbjörn, but like both of the boats were like very independent, but also got to meet up. So it was really cool to like get both of the worlds combined.
In Bergen.
Yeah, in Bergen. I think that's a sidetrack we should go down as well. But just a very smooth season, fun, lots of cool people came through 59 North. Just flipping through the guest book the other day on FALKEN, it's just amazing to see how many people have been through the boats. So yeah, I can't. That was the worst elevator pitch in the world.
I think what emerges for me as the theme is it's kind of like it was the first time in 5 years that things just, I've said this many times before, it was kind of like the model for how the business is meant to look, like stability almost. Like we kind of had some stability. We said 2 years ago we needed to get more staff involved because we have this situation where if somebody gets sick or injured or whatever or can't go, it's going to fall to one of us. We need to have a little bit more robust staff. We need to have a little bit, Isbjörn got refit at the end of 2023, so that boat's kind of reset now and does a lot. The fact that it is so independent that, you and I are more involved in FALKEN than Isbjörn. If August should be on this podcast as well. He's gone on parental leave starting today.
But thinking about it too, like this was also, you saying it was a smooth season, but it was also the first time in a long time we didn't have any like outside factors that shook up. Like in 2020, I mean, both Axel was born and COVID hit.
Yeah.
In 2019, we got Ice Bear.
Yep.
In 22, we got FALKEN and refitted her. And 23 was the first FALKEN refit, first FALKEN season, which required a lot of attendancy with the maintenance. So I think this also 24 was the first season when no major outside factors kind of shook up. It was no earthquakes.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
because
that's a good way to put it.
It's hard to remember, but it was only, I mean, COVID was basically the whole 2020, 2021, even affecting 22 for some of the trips.
Yeah.
So that was nice, and I think we have to be prepared for other outside factors to come in and enjoy when it is a smooth year.
We talked a couple of years ago about like how you, me, and August, and when Nikki was involved a little more on the high level of like, do you pave the roads or do you go and climb the mountains? Using that metaphor as like climbing the mountains is me and my new idea brain, and paving the roads is like just getting things we already have more efficient and more organized. And I think we did a lot of road paving this year.
Yeah, in a good way.
Yeah. So on the Bergen thing, I guess we kind of went down that already. We don't need to rehash that, but that was pretty cool having both boats there together. We did that photo shoot of having we did a little tacking duel in the fjords there outside August's house. But on the subject now of like looking ahead, I guess let's start here. Do you personally, we haven't briefed any of this, by the way. Do you personally have any New Year's resolutions? Are you a person that does New Year's resolutions?
Yeah, but I mostly do them on like on a personal level.
Yeah,
not
I'm curious.
Really on a business
yeah,
level.
but I'm curious about your personal resolutions.
My personal resolution is to take care of myself, work on my body, be more flexible, and make sure that my body
like flexible mentally or
no, like physically, like go to the gym, work on my yoga poses, and make sure that I can do this in 30 years. So I feel like it's time for myself now.
Yeah.
What about you?
I tend to not like the resolutions. Of course, I always have them, but like I've as with everybody else, a few weeks and it's just like you forget about it. But I think for me, the biggest thing that I want to come to terms with, I guess, as it relates to work too, is like, how do we do this life-work balance thing? Because it only really occurred to me earlier this year that I need to start thinking about that. When we have our own boat, we have Axel, I want to be home in the summers. It's like, that's been hard for me to accept, actually. That like, I can't just, because like previously, before we had Axel, you and me would have just lived on the boat for 9 months of the year. And I miss that. I do miss that. And I'm trying to be conscious about how do I have a great lifestyle in both places when I'm at work, but also when I'm home. And I've never had to make that distinction before. So that's probably the big picture theme for me in 2025. Personally, it's the same. Like, I want to keep up the habits. My back's been on and off really bad since February. I tend to, like, one of the downsides of us being away is I get back in the gym and
you feel stronger than ever when you get back?
Yeah, I immediately injure myself. I injured my lower back in high school, like squatting in the weight room, and it's not been right since. And I go through phases where it feels stronger than ever, and then I'll just bend the wrong way, and it like pops again. And I've just been really frustrated about that. So I think personally, like my own health, I need to like figure that out. And yeah, I guess just keep, I've really thought hard about, I have this thing. You hate this stuff. I know you hate this stuff, but I subscribe to this this website called Farnham Street, and it's like it's kind of like the knowledge version of the quarterdeck. It's basically like, it's hard to describe, but check out Farnham Street. It's like really good. The guy does a podcast called The Knowledge Project, which is my favorite podcast that I listen to. It's kind of geared a lot towards like high performing people, whether it's athletes or CEOs or whatever, but it's a lot of really interesting thing in here. And he puts out an annual review question PDF thing. And like the very first question here, this is number 1, the key to success. It says, when I interview this guy that does the interviews, his name's Shane Parrish. When I interview the best people in the world on the Knowledge Project podcast, one factor correlates more towards success than any other. While luck, ambition, competence, talent, passion, and intelligence play a role, the most important driver of success is knowing what you want. And I've actually said this to people that ask me for advice, particularly about sailing businesses. It's like, look, I was very lucky in that I always knew what I wanted, and people need to know what they want. But so here, I'm going to continue this question here. Success means different things to different people. Success isn't money, fame, or fancy things. Success is simply knowing what you want and getting it. When you know what you want, you can direct your choices and attention towards getting it. Be honest with yourself about what you want. And then the first question to this thing, what I want is ... And I've spent the last 2.5 weeks actually having a really hard time to answer that question. And I said to Ryan Finstad, one of our business partners and one of my best friends, I shared this with him, and he's like, have you answered the first question yet? And I said, no. I said, I'm really struggling because here's the thing. And like Mia, you might think this sounds like arrogant or whatever, but we're 10 years into this. I have done professionally pretty much all the things I set out to do, all those little goals I write down in my notebooks and stuff. And I don't like when you have gotten all the things you've always wanted in the past, how do you answer the question, what I want now? I don't know. I don't know.
Do you remember?
I know what you're going to say.
Do you remember after Svalbard, you were in the same position of like, I've done everything I want now. I've gone to Svalbard. That was my big goal. I feel lost. And you were trying to create new goals, just kind of arbitrary, just because you had to have a goal. And I told you, just wait, it will come. Did it come?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. What came was the OGR thing, and then we got so dead set on that.
I mean, more like, not maybe so much OGR, but I think more like the Falcon project came along. Eventually. So I think instead of feel like you're lost, just enjoy the time in between. I don't
feel lost.
Instead of feeling like you can decide, like, do you want to be without a job, or do you want to be looking for a job? And like now you can, instead of feel like you're without a goal, you're just waiting for the next goal to come.
Yeah, but what's interesting and what I wanted to talk about a little bit today, not specifically because some of the stuff I can't talk about, that we like this, to put this in perspective, this guy Shane Parrish and this podcast, they talk a lot about positioning and how being in a good position versus a bad position gives you choices or no choices. Like, you look at that, you apply that to 59 North. 3 years ago, or 2.5 years ago, we had already bought Falcon. Falcon was in the shed. We were finishing the season on Ice Bear, and we had a deal to sell the boat to another OGR team. And then that money that we had sold the boat for was going to go towards the Falcon project. And that fell through. And we had to sell Ice Bear at a huge discount. And all of a sudden, we were in a really bad position. We had to raise a bunch of money. We had to take more debt. We had to scramble to finish Falcon because it got delayed. That was the definition of like, okay, we're in a bad position, so therefore we don't have any options. We have to get this stuff done. There's no choices. Now all of a sudden, we're in a pretty good position. The business has some stability. We have money, like a little bit of reserves in the bank financially that we've never had before.
And a great team.
And a really awesome team. We didn't talk about that yet. I want to cover that a little bit, how we've bolstered the staff. And so now, all of a sudden, there's been a lot of different opportunities that have presented themselves to us, much like what you just said. OGR presented itself. FALKEN in the first place presented itself. But what I'm struggling with now is how to evaluate those opportunities in the context of what I want personally and what I want for the business. I'm having a really hard time with that, a really hard time. And to tell a little bit of a story, one of the opportunities I can talk about is we have a chance to buy a FAR 40, a one-off, not a one design, an old 1989 FAR 40 one-tonner. That's a friend of a friend owns it in Sweden, and it is an amazing boat. You and I went to look at it, Mia. They're selling it pretty cheap. And it's kind of a one of a kind. It's like one of the things that it's like a boat that I love. And we talked about doing like performance or skills sail training weeks in Sweden on it. And like, I think there's a great opportunity there. I posed these questions on the quarterdeck. If those of you that are members, I've asked people's opinions on there. But like, I need to define what it is I want for myself and the business before we can like pull the trigger on any of this stuff. And that's the question I haven't been able to answer yet to help evaluate. And there's two other fairly major opportunities that I just am having a very hard time evaluating. And I don't know why. And you're sitting here shaking your head because you don't have trouble with this. Like, what do you want? Like, can you answer this question?
I think you know when it's right. And if it doesn't feel, if you don't know if it's not right, it's not right. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you and me have done this for so long that we have very strong gut feelings when things are right and when things are wrong. And sometimes you do things against your gut and you know it's slightly off, but it turns out good in the end. But then you have to put more effort into it, I think. So I think it will present itself, and I think 25 will be a fun year to see if there are new opportunities coming out.
Well, one of the things that's hard to think about is, you know, from that gut feeling thing, it goes back to the life work thing. You and I have always, me especially, have always made decisions based on what's going to enhance my life personally, right? And now some of these decisions are going to be more business decisions because like we have a team, we have a little bit more capacity. We could potentially continue to grow 59 North into a third boat or a different outlet or whatever. But then it's less about us personally and more about like, could this make more money for the business and the team? And I'm not used to thinking like that.
But I disagree though. I think you and me are the business, and if we are excited, it will still enhance our life, not just the business. Because it will enhance our life because we will have more fun at home, hopping out on the sideline, even if we may not be on the ground with the project. Same thing like with Nikki's racing program. Like, even if it doesn't affect us directly, it's been really fun to cheer along on the sideline and help like build that and plan that out with the crew and everything. So I think it's even if it's not directly involved in our personal life, it will still enhance our life. So I think it's less separated than you think it is.
That's probably a good point. And what's interesting is in the past, you know, when you and I went to look at that FAR 40, to use that as an example, I think I told you that in the moment, I was like, we have to do this. This is such a cool boat. I was so excited. And in the past, I would have immediately followed through on those things that I get really excited about in the moment. That's the whole ready, fire, aim kind of part of my personality. And I've been sort of training that away from me to make more reasoned decisions instead of kind of snap decisions. And maybe that's backfiring because now I'm stuck in these decision loops. Maybe I should just follow the initial excitement. And then, because in the past, like with Ice Bear, with FALKEN, it all happened so fast. I stayed excited because it was just like, okay, now we're doing this. Yeah,
but I think also like the more things you add, the less capacity you have. So you have to be more conscious of. You can't just pull the trigger. Like when you and me, especially with having a family life, because all of a sudden you can't just work another extra hour because you have a family life. And I think that's when the capacity is slightly less, you have to make those decisions more conscious. Same thing, like if your bowl is full, if you put one more, even if you're really excited about this candy, if you put the candy, 3 of them gonna pull out. You have to be careful that like you're not gonna you're not gonna put too much in the bowl, because then you may actually have to take something else away.
Well, I think that's the nice thing about the way we have kind of, it's almost been unspoken. You and I have never had to have the conversation of like, oh, can I stay late at work today? Or can I, it's like, we have our priorities, and that's not even, we don't even need to talk about it. You know, we quit work at 4:00 every day so we can go get Axel from school. And then that's the rest of the days with him. That's never really, occasionally I can take a meeting later because of the time zone differences, or do a podcast or whatever. But like the default is that's nights and weekends, we're home.
Yeah.
And that's been pretty nice. And the same thing with the summers now. The defaults for us in the summers are like, and I guess that's why these extra decisions are more hard, because what, like, if you ask the question, what needs to be true in order for us to do something different or new at work, we have to have extra capacity. It can't just be, you and I can't do everything. And that's kind of where we've gotten to the point we are now.
Yeah.
You don't have anything else to say about this?
No, but also, like, I mean, Axel is getting older. He's now turning 5 this year. I mean, he's going to have his own interests soon too. And things are going to evolve. Things are always evolving, as it has done the last 10 years of when you and me have been running the business.
Yeah, and I guess, like,
you just imagine where you and me were 10 years ago. Imagine where we're going to be in 10 years, like, just with life situation. In 10 years, I mean, Axel's going to be 15. He's not going to want to have anything to do with us.
There's a sailboat going by.
Yeah. They always feel so close when you're sitting down below.
When you're sitting down below and you see the mast, like, right behind the cockpit, it's like, oh. To bring this back a little bit, you're not going to get to see any of the South Pacific next year, even though it's our first big year going to the Pacific. Are you sad about that?
A little bit, but I'm going to take it in 26. So I'm like letting you guys do the groundwork, and I can cruise.
So are you going to do the same stint that I'm? It's basically, we're repeating 26 and 25.
So you should
repeating 25 and 26.
So you should do the winter stint in 2026, and I will do the spring stint, I think.
And you get to do the Galapagos, Marquesas, Tahiti, stint.
So that would be good. I was going to start break this off a little bit and just ask, like, what have you been... Name something that you're proud of from 2024.
I quit coffee. Quit drinking caffeine. That's been the single biggest change to my life and well-being. Besides, I've talked about this before. Joining the gym last year and making some friends there and having that as like community as part of my home life, and then quitting caffeine have been by far the two biggest life changes that have made me feel better and be a better person. That's what I'm most proud of.
What are you most proud in the business?
The staff, the people that we have working for us now, and the way that we kind of did that, and that they're all friends and really fun people with all varied backgrounds and like have the same mindset. We had our first ever staff training, all hands staff training here, except for August, sadly, but we're going to do it next year here in Lagos at the beginning of December. And like, that was probably the most fun weekend I had the whole year. Of just there was 11 of us here, just like talking about what makes 59 North unique and creating this culture, and that was so fun. That's what I'm most proud of, that the people that we have working with us now.
Are you gonna ask me what I'm proud of?
I am. What are you most proud of? Personally and professionally, 2 questions.
Professionally, I'm really proud of how we have figured out like having a very diverse crew sailing with us,
like customers,
like crew that come sailing with us. And like, I'm so proud of how we managed to like have women passages and also adding more women to our normal passages. And back in 22, after the first women's trip, we decided that it's very easy to have only guys trips because the guys sign up way early.
Well, that happened when you and Nikki were it was you, Nikki, and Emma, I think, right? I was home and I was managing the crew email address, and someone said, I've always wanted to sign up for one of your trips, but I'm afraid of being the only person.
Yeah, and I think when you're saying afraid, it's not about like afraid, like on a scary level. It's more just like it's much more fun when there's a mixed crew for everyone, both for the guys and for the women.
I agree with that.
And we decided like we're going to have a minimum of 2 female crew because we already have a mixed age, we have mixed nationality, we need to have more mixed gender, and hopefully one day it can be 50-50. And actually I think 1 or 2 trips this year, it was a 50-50 mix without even trying. So we have minimum 2 female crew on every trip, and I really feel like that brings in like just opens up a more of a welcoming culture, and it kind of shows people without saying that we want to bring a more mixed crew. This is a welcoming environment, and yeah, that's to me has been really, really neat to be able to figure that out. And in 25, we're gonna have 3 women's trips, which is also really cool.
Yeah, first one on Eastbjorn too.
Yeah, so I really enjoy the diversity of our crew. I feel like that's something we've been consciously working on and has been really, really helped everyone. And it is fun, like when we have, because on the website when you go to the passages, if there's on Falken, for example, if there's 6 crews signed up and only one of them are women, one of the open bunks says one for women because one is saved for women. And if you have a guy signing up, I have to explain. I was a little bit afraid in the beginning to say, yes, we have a space open, but we save it for women, and then I tell them about the initiative. And I've been a little bit afraid of like people saying, hey, it's an open space, why can't I get it? And pouring down good comments of like, I'm so thankful you guys are doing this. I'm having a daughter who is in her late teens. Thank you for opening up this market for women. And instead of being like, hey, I want this space, they're just saying, thank you for holding it. And I was like, that's so cool.
That is cool. You should be proud of that.
Yeah, no, during the boat show, it's been a lot of talk. Like I went to all women seminar at the boat show that was held by our friend Bian. And a lot of people think that you have to be in an all women crew. But I think it's so much to like get when you're a little bit intimidated, like being in an all women crew is very familiar and like feels really safe, and I agree with that. I think it's a great space for it, but I think it's even a better space when you're having a very open, welcoming staff and boat, and it's a mixed crew, because like nothing is good on its own. Like if you just seclude it, you get it even worse, I think, when you segregate things. And having I think we have 3 or 4 female skippers in our team now, so having a mixed staff kind of filters from the up to down.
I agree with that.
Opening up that. So yeah, that's one thing that I'm really, really proud of in the business.
Well, it's cool. Like you and Emily are running the first 2 trips, and it's like we have an all-female staff on a mixed trip as well. Mm-hmm. It's not just an all-female staff when it's an all-female crew as well.
No, but I do think we should have. I mean, our goal is to have not to have all-female staff.
No,
the goal should be to have a mixed staff
on every trip.
On occasion, we have 2 guys, and on occasion we have 2 women as staff, because of the nature of how it's a very challenging schedule. Yeah. And also now Jojo is going to start skippering Eastbjorn, so now we have also a female skipper in Eastbjorn, which is really neat. So yeah, that's one thing I'm very proud of.
What about personally? What are you personally most proud of?
I'm personally most proud of that I don't know what I'm proud of going to the CrossFit gym, because I've been going to the gym by myself for so long, and I'm really sick of training on my own because the motivation, you really have to pull the motivation from the inside, versus when you're going to a group class. You and me have been doing a lot of lunch classes at the gym. The motivation is kind of there by default. Yeah. So I'm happy.
It's fed to you.
Maybe not proud of, but I'm happy I started going to the CrossFit gym in town.
So we have one pretty big decision we have to make, besides all these new idea things I was talking about in 2025. That's not for 2025, but it's for the future that needs to be made now. And that's, what do we do after 2026? We tend to publish our schedules like a year, almost 2 years in advance. So sometime this spring, we're going to be publishing the 2027 sailing schedule. Mm-hmm.
And the challenge is, should we stay with Falken
and Eastbjorn, but Falken specifically.
Should we stay in the Pacific or go back through the canal to the Atlantic?
Yeah, so I have a transatlantic, or like an Atlantic season kind of sketched out. I think my gut feeling now is to come back to the Atlantic and do like a homecoming tour, we kind of said, because the boat will have been gone for 2 years. So I just looking at this sketch here, we have a stop in Key West, we have another stop in Cuba, we have Bermuda, we have Annapolis, we have Azores. It's like it's like a return tour to all of our favorite places in the Atlantic. We have Azores, we have Crookhaven, where you and I have made our first landfall in Arcturus in Ireland.
Back in
we have Bergen.
12.
Yeah, 11. 2011. So we have Crookhaven, we have Bergen, we have Amsterdam, which you and I really liked. We have Marstrand, Sweden, and then back to Lagos. So like that would be pretty cool to hit all of the sort of favorite places. But also, do we want to leave the Pacific? Do we get another boat and have one in each ocean? Like that's one of these options that we have to talk about. Do we get another Falcon and have one in the Pacific and one in the Atlantic? Do we, I have a sketch in here that goes around the world via the Southern Ocean, like kind of our own OGR. We met Don McIntyre the other day here in Lagos on Falcon, and he's like, hey, are you guys going to do the next OGR? It's like, well, I kind of forgot about that, but like...
That's an option.
Maybe.
There's a lot of options.
That's the thing. There's a lot of options.
And then on Eastbjörn, like, where are we going to go back to Svalbard? Are we going to Greenland? Are we going down south? What is she going to do?
Is Eastbjörn... Do we leave Falcon in the Pacific and send Eastbjörn on an Atlantic circle to do all this stuff? It's like... it's none of these are like... These are hard decisions, but they're all really, really good options. That's the thing. That's the thing. Any closing thoughts, Mia? How was your New Year's Eve? Did you make it to midnight?
I did not make it. I took a little break. I took a break between around 10 to 5 minutes before midnight, and I set my alarm to go up and see the fantastic 10 minutes of firework in Lagos. So yes, last year I just heard the fireworks from bed, and I decided that I'm going to go up and watch them. So I was standing on the balcony with your sister and your dad watching the fireworks.
I missed them.
Did you make it, Andy?
I did not. I didn't even attempt it. I was in bed at 9:15, and I slept, and I only heard you come down after the fireworks. I didn't hear anything.
We had a nice toast on the balcony. Actually got to eat some chocolate coins.
Chocolate doubloons. Cool. What I guess to close this off, what are you most excited about for the future in general?
I'm really excited that we have such a fun, that what you and me have created is so much fun.
Yeah.
We get to meet so many amazing people, both people we're sailing with and the staff that comes through and at boat shows, and really excited how much fun this is. And after 10 years that I can genuinely say I love this, that's what I'm really excited about. And I don't see that wearing off at all.
I agree with that.
What are you most excited about?
Well, before, just to comment, you said the people we meet. I just mentioned we met Don McIntyre here in the dock, and you have one of the funniest photos, I think, ever of we're walking to Falcon. I'm holding Axel's hand on one side, and Don is holding Axel's hand on the other side, and we're walking down the dock. It's like so random. It's like such a random thing, and that's the way it goes. Everywhere we go, we meet people we either met or know of us, or we know of them, or whatever, and I love that part of it too.
Like with Yelmer here we went over to visit his beautiful steel boat on the customs dock.
Yeah. Tilvera.
Yeah. And he came over here. I just love I love people. I guess that's just my conclusion. I love people, and I love that we get to spend a lot of time with cool people.
Yeah, that's true. What am I most excited about? I'm not there yet because it still seems like a long way in the future, but when the time comes to get on a plane and fly to the Galapagos and realize that I'm going to sail from there to the freaking Marquesas, like, that's what I'm most excited for. That's going to be so freaking cool. That is so cool.
And I will be home and being like, good for you.
Yeah, but it's spring. You're going to be having fun.
I know. I'd be jealous, but I know it's going to be my turn in 26, hopefully.
Exactly. Cool. Well, Mia, we're in the future now, 2025.
Wow.
Thanks for doing this. This is always fun doing this reflective thing. It'll be fun to listen back to this because you and I didn't prepare at this at all. I'm not even sure what we talked about.
No. A lot of rambling sidetracks, I think.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Until next time.
Hold fast.
Thanks again to Forbes Yachts for sponsoring this episode of the show. Check them out at ForbesYachts.com. That's FORBES, ForbesYachts.com. Thanks also to Connor and Boat Doctor for sponsoring this episode of the show. Get in touch for all your electricity needs at BoatDoctorUSA.com. That's BOATDRUSA.com. On the Wind is the podcast about sailing, created by 59 Degrees North and hosted by me, Andy Schell, and also by August Sandberg, Emma Garshagen, and occasionally Ben Doer. The show is mixed and produced in Frederick, Maryland by Lee Cumberland. Ads are read by us, the hosts, and occasionally by 59 North's bosun Adam Brown and podcast producer Lee Cumberland. Episode artwork and website show notes are done by Laura Parent in San Francisco. The intro theme music is composed and performed by former podcast guest and musician Cameron Dale. while the outro music you're hearing now is, of course, by our friends, the Storm Weather Shanty Choir. We love hearing from our fans, so send your questions and comments to holdfast@59-north.com. And please do us a favor and review the show on iTunes or wherever else you get your podcasts. Until next time, hold fast.
I made up me mind that I was inclined to go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. I made up me mind that I was inclined to go to sea no more. As I was walking down the street, I met sweet Angeline. She said, come home with me, me lad, and we'll have a cracking time. But when I awoke, it was no joke. I found I was all alone. My silver watch and my money too, and my whole bloody gear was gone. Was gone, was gone. My whole bloody gear was gone. It was when I awoke, it was no joke, for my whole bloody gear was gone. As I was walking down the street, I met Big Rapper Brown. I asked him if he would take me in, and he looked at me with a frown. He said,
last time you was paid up with me, you talked up no score. But I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance to go to sea once more.
once more, once more, to go to sea once more. I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance to go to sea once more. Sometimes we're catching whales, me lads, but mostly we get none. With a 20-foot oar in every paw from 5 o'clock in the morn. And when daylight's gone and the night's coming on, we rest upon our oars. And oh boys, you wish that you was dead or snug with the girls ashore. Ashore, ashore, or snug with the girls ashore. Oh boys, you wish that you was dead or snug with the girls ashore. Come all you seafaring lads that listen to me song. When you go a big boating, boys, make sure you do not go wrong. You take my tip when you come off a trip, don't go with any whores. But get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. Get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. Get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more.